Welcome! We've now made it to the third section of this video series. The goal of this section is to focus on data modeling through the use of the data and relationship view found in Power BI. And by the end of this section, we'll have a fully functioning data model that we can start building our report from. The first video will focus on how to create relationships between all the tables we've imported so far in this course. Before we get started, however, let's quickly review what relationships are. So in this example, we have two tables. We have a data table on the left. Now, data tables are table types that typically contain mostly numbers, dates, and math. In our model, this is our sales table. Now, over here on the right is our lookup table. Lookup tables contain mostly text and information, stuff we would want to look up. Our model has quite a few of these actually. And we'll be connecting all of our lookup tables to our data table using relationships. As a reminder, the beauty of relationships is that a relationship gives us access to all the data from either table with only a single connection. Alright, let's get started. So if you haven't already, I would recommend downloading and using the file that's accompanying this video, specifically because some versions of Power BI Desktop automatically create relationships. So in this specific file, I've gone ahead and removed those so we can learn the process of how to do those ourselves. Now to start with, let's draw our eyes to the upper left-hand corner over here, and notice that there's three little icons that we can click on. This top one here is the report level, the one below it is the data view, and this bottom one right here is one for relationships. I'm going to go ahead and click on this one, and that's where we will be spending most of our time today. Alright, so we have in front of us all the tables that we've created and brought in using the Power Query Editor. And what we're going to learn to do today is how to connect them to each other. Now some of you might be asking, they're already in the data model, why can't we just use them? Why is not the data already available to use and utilize, and why doesn't it just all work together? So let me show you exactly why we are creating these relationships, or at least one of the reasons. So if I was just wanting to use data from either of these, let's say I wanted just to grab something from here, I wanted to know sales amount. Alright, that's going to give me a number, but what about if I want to know that sales information by, and I will use product category. Take a look at the data very carefully, and let's talk about this for a second. You'll notice that the numbers on all of these columns kind of look the same. We're actually getting a grand total. There's 3.249, 3.249. So these numbers are the same with or without the category product information in here. And that's because there's no relationship to let them communicate. So that's the reason we're creating these relationships in the data model. Go ahead and get rid of this. Navigate back to that relationship view. Now to start with, I'm just going to rearrange these a bit. The great thing with these tables is they can be grabbed and moved. I'm going to go ahead and bring store over here, sales table over here, and let's go ahead and start to connect some of them. Now the good thing to do is between two tables, let's say we want to take a look at sales and product. You got to find the common key between them. So they both share something called product key, so let's use that. I'm going to connect product key to product key. Beautiful, there we go, and you can see that there's now a relationship connecting them. Just to show you this relationship working, if I come back now to that report view and let's just drag product category and sales, any sales information, put that back as a chart. There we go. Now the numbers are working. So that's the power of those relationships. It's automatically doing these connections for us. It's the equivalent of a VLOOKUP or a left join. And it's allowing the communication to know what rows are attached to home appliances or computers or any of that. Now, if you're wondering how I made this, we're going to cover all of that in the next couple of videos once we're done with data modeling. I just want to show you the process that's happening in the back end and why we are creating these. So once we start building this report, like you see in front of you, we will have access to the full data set working together in unison. Get rid of that and navigate back to that relationship view. And let's go ahead and finish the connections between these other tables. I'm also going to connect my sales table to my store table. I have store key here. There's store key over there. Perfect. Connect the two of them. Now we have two connections. All right. And I can also connect. Let's take a look. See if I can find, there it is. Geography key is kind of buried down at the bottom. I can connect geography to geography down here. Beautiful. There's three connections. And channel, last but not least, it can be connected. And it goes just like a file. As you can see, it's drag and drop and easy to connect all of these. And now we have all of our relationships fully functioning in our data model. Now, the other thing that's important to understand too, and a great little way to wrap up this video, is the idea and understanding of those data versus lookup tables that we had. As a quick reminder, data tables are the numbers and the keys that look up textual information. But overall, a well-designed data model will have basically numbers or dates. And then lookup tables contain mostly text information. And a good way to organize them in this data model, if you actually take a close look, you'll notice that there's a bunch of down arrows kind of pointing in the direction, the way that the data flows up and down these lines. So let's go ahead and rearrange this. I personally like to put the lookup tables at the top, data tables at the bottom, something that Rob Colley, a colleague of mine, will do in a lot of his books and videos. He likes to arrange them that way. Kind of think of it as the way that gravity falls. I really appreciate the design of this, and I think it looks and organizes very well and helps show here's our text information at the top and our data information at the bottom. Now, a couple of other good things that are important to note too, with any of these relationships, they can be deleted or edited. So if you actually double click on any relationship wire, as an example, I will use the channel, give that a double click, move that over here. Actually, I'll keep it right there. And what we can see is there's an option to edit relationship. So let's say I had accidentally used the wrong two columns between channel and sales. I can come in here and I can change the column and hit OK. So it's really easy to edit the two of them between here. There's a few other settings that won't be covered in the scope of this course, but it's a nice little way just to go in and edit your settings. That's fine. And if needed, you can also right click and delete your relationships as well using the right click and just selecting this option. And last but not least, if you actually go up to the modeling tab up here, there is an option right here called Manage Relationships under the Home ribbon. That takes you to a window that shows you all of the relationships you have currently in your model, also with an option to edit, and a few other things in here. And as I mentioned, like some things that we just won't cover in the scope of our video. Go ahead and close that. Now the last thing I want to mention in here before we close out this video is the idea of relationship types. Now for those of you who are familiar with Access or SQL, might have heard these terms before, but what's happening right now is a one-to-many relationship. If we look closely, you'll notice that the tables we have in here share two distinct symbols next to them. All of our lookup tables at the top have a 1 underneath them, and our sales table has an asterisk. Now that has very significant meaning for both of them. The ones indicate that the key on that table is distinct. So on our store table, as an example, every store is a single row. On our products table, every product is a single row, channel table and geography table, and so on. On our sales table, conceptually, again, just going back to our table types, that can contain many rows of a single store for sales information, many rows of product information. So those asterisks indicate a mini side of a relationship. Now, some other data models in places like SQL and other things like that can have 3 different types of relationships. They can have a one-to-one relationship, meaning 2 tables with distinct keys, a one-to-many like you see here, or a many-to-many. Power BI can only support those first 2. If you try to do a many-to-many relationship, you'll get an error message. Let's say, for example, I take my product key and try to merge that, or try to join that with my category name. I'm going to get an error message like this. You cannot create a relationship between these 2 columns because one of the columns must have unique values. I just wanted to show that to you so you can be aware that if you ever see this relationship, that means that your lookup table is not distinct, and at that point you will want to go in and investigate maybe why there might be duplicate values on a few rows.